Question number 4. Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Which of the following best describes her tenure as Minister of Education? Her abandoned plan to increase class sizes, her proposed Christchurch school closures, her closure of residential special schools, the introduction of charter schools, the decline in international achievement rankings, or the rollout of NovaPay?
Order. The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. And may I thank the member for not surprising me and not being able to rise above that gracelessness. What I think this list demonstrates about my tenure as Minister of Education is that I have always been prepared to make the tough decisions that are in the best interests of our young people, rather than what might be easiest for adults. What I think better describes my tenure, for which I feel most privileged, has been my relentless focus on our children and young people, and that has been characterised by this. All of our young students now are starting earlier, staying longer and leaving better qualified. And that is reflected in student stand-downs, suspensions and exclusions are at the lowest level since records began 16 years ago. Since 2011, the rate of children starting school has reached almost 98%. Provisional results for 18-year-olds have them at 85.2%. We've invested in a quality agenda to support our teachers grow their teaching practice, $359 million in investing in educational success. 197 communities of learning have been established, involving over 500,000 young people. And, Mr Speaker, I am about to finish. We have increased vote education from $8 billion to $11 billion, the most any government has ever invested. I am proud of my tenure.
Supplementary. I think the answer was none of the above. Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Will she now, in her final question time as Minister of Education, finally apologise to the schools, teachers and families in Christchurch who, having been shepherded into a hall and given colour-coded name tags, discovered halfway through the meeting that the colour of their name tag denoted whether she intended to close, merge or leave open their school?
Order. The Honourable Hekia Parata.
I can attest to a much better approach than what the member commends. I went down to Christchurch community by community and apologised in person to them. And then I set about making a case to this government to secure over $1 billion to rebuild and renew so that the Greater Christchurch, Waimakariri and Selwyn areas would have the best 21st century education network in this country and indeed in Australasia. I'm satisfied that I have made well on that one mistake.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order. 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 Supplementary question, Chris.
Will she now apologise to teachers and school staff for approving the implementation of NovaPay, despite the trials having proven it didn't pay staff properly? And the advice to her at the time was that there were 147 known faults with the system.
That's right.
Order. The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr Speaker, I think that the apology from this government, including myself, was to take action as quickly as possible, to absolutely empathise and sympathise, because no government wants to see anyone losing their salary because of a digital failure. And together with my colleague, the Honourable Stephen Joyce, we worked hard to rectify that, and now the error rate is lower than the previous system, and certainly lower than that, members. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Will she now apologise to the families and students at Salisbury Residential School for her first failed attempt to close the school, which Justice Dobson called, quote, an abrogation of the responsibilities involved in making a decision, end quote, and given Justice Dobson's conclusion that, quote, no great leap of logic is required to recognise the validity of concerns?
That's right.
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, in respect of Salisbury in particular, there is a process that we're in the middle of, and we will continue that process because that's what the law provides for. In terms of special education, learning support, those young people most vulnerable with clinical or behavioural disorders, this government has increased funding by 29%. Under my watch, we've introduced the intensive wraparound service, which has seen many more young people being given support so they can live comfortably in their own community. Residential hostels have their place, but in these modern times, it is far more sustainable to find ways to help those young people be successful in their own home communities.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Does she regret the breakdown in her relationship with Leslie Longstone, the former Secretary of Education, who left with a $425,000 golden handshake as a result?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, the member misremembers there was no breakdown in our relationship. The particular appointee was unable to meet the requirements, and that's been demonstrated by subsequent appointments in the form of Peter Hughes, now Chief Commissioner, and in the current form of Iona Holstead, both eminently capable of carrying out these roles and discharging them very effectively.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Is she proud of the fact that the two major international PISA studies released during her time as Minister of Education both showed Kiwi kids getting worse in their literacy, worse in their numeracy, and worse in their science?
Did those kids start school?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the New Zealand education system. It is one that has constantly striven to improve itself. And what the PISA results tell us and caution us is that we have constantly got to improve. We don't resolve from those, but then they're triangulated with the National Student Monitoring Project out of the University of Otago, by the Timms and Pearl studies, by the best evidence synthesis. So unlike the member, we don't hang off one international study because it happens to support a member's point of view. We look at the round, and what we see and should be proud of is the achievement of young New Zealanders. And so, yes, I am proud of them.
Question number 5, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My